All right, welcome back to James Engineering. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about sprocket deburring. There's been a lot of interest here lately in sprockets, and sprockets created kind of unique problem. With sprockets, what we see is you can't afford to put a lot of labor into the sprocket deburring. So a lot of times with these sprockets, we don't have the time to do our traditional method of deburring. We don't have the time to go in there and actually interpolate the tooth and put the chamfer on the tooth. So what we do here is we just come in really quickly and deburr these things, and then we do a quick brush so that we can put the radius on both sides or ensure that there's no burr on each side. But we just don't have the time to put that wheel on there and do what we normally do for a traditional chamfer. So what I see a lot is a lot of people don't think that our machines can be competitive. We see a lot of people out in the field, these grinders, and we'll see a guy out there grinding a part, taking the part off, load another part, grind the part, and they have a pretty quick cycle time, but this thing's 13 pounds. For example, I saw something with another company where this guy's doing it in like 5 or 10 seconds apart. So you're telling me that this guy's gonna take this 13-pound grinder around 8 hours a day and do that part every 5 or 10 seconds? I don't think that's sustainable. So what we think is a machine that can do this in that 5 to 10 second range is going to far outpace someone doing it by hand. I wanted to take a quick moment to show you these 4 different parts being deburred in this machine. We're going to be seeing like a 5 to a 10 second cycle time varying on the different sizes of parts, but I want you to focus on how quickly we get in and we get out to deburr these parts. But the other thing is the different sizes of parts. So what these machines allow you to do is to run truly random parts. Why do they do that? Because what you've seen maybe on our other videos is we can toggle through the programs with just 2 button presses. So we can select a different program and hit cycle start. So you're just 2 button presses, select the program and hit cycle start. So now what that does is maybe that guy that was wielding that 13-pound grinder, you know, that's not really sustainable all day long. Maybe now all that person has to do is throw a part in, select the recipe and go. Now I know a lot of you guys are probably going to do batch environments, so you're going to be setting up to run 25, 50 or hundreds of these sprockets all at once. So another thing that's kind of important to keep into perspective here is I've seen some of our competitors that have machines out there. They're all fine and dandy, but they're manual machines, kind of like our manual machines. So what happens with those manual machines, when we say manual, is it's a manual setup. Well, manual setup means that when I go from this sprocket to say this sprocket right here, I'm going to have to, like you've seen in our other videos, going to have to go in there and change setups. But what I see in a production environment is that's an opportunity for someone to kind of relax a little bit. And in that relaxing period, sometimes what takes me maybe 5 or 10 minutes as a machine tool builder, it might take an operator 15, 20 minutes, up to an hour and a half. Some of the people are reporting back that they're seeing changeover times of an hour and a half. So when you're watching this video, start thinking about that. If you saw like throughout the day, let's say 10-minute changeover time up to an hour and a half changeover time for each and every sprocket, that kind of adds up pretty quick. So the focus of these machines is to eliminate that. So if you're seeing a couple second changeover time and then we just roll right into another part, imagine the ROIs on this. So now that takes your dependency off of those manual people and gives us the ability to automate this process. And while this is an expensive solution, the ROI is very, very quick because we start eliminating that manual setup aspect, and we're keeping at the run rate of 5 to 10 seconds without that person taking smoke breaks, being out sick, just getting tired. I mean, that's going to be a real problem there. This thing can run through lunch. So, I mean, you solve all these little problems with that right there. So let's take a look at a cycle. I'm going to show you some dry cycles, and then I want to show you a wet cycle because I think there is a lot of advantages to a wet cycle. When we're running at a rate where we're doing 5 or 10 seconds and we're using the media that we're using like sandpapers and brushes, you're going to create a lot of debris. So I think something to consider is how are you handling that debris? That debris is often flammable. So when we go a water solution, the water solution has a rust inhibitor in it, so you're not going to rust out the parts, but it washes away all of that, if you will, that swarf. So there's pros and cons to each. I'm not saying one's better than the other, but I think it's worth looking at both wet and dry and kind of making a decision there. So let's run a part. We're going to start with what I call a 6-inch, 1/4-inch part. We just throw it right on in there. Now we're going to go to 1/2-inch part. Now we're going to go to the 4-inch part. Now we go to the big guy, the 11-inch part. I don't see a guy lifting this thing in and out all day long at 5 seconds. Now we go back to the little baby again, just for an extreme. Okay, I know that you're not going to be running random parts truly, but it gives you that opportunity. But what's more important is looking at how quick the setup time is. I mean, once we write this recipe, which was written yesterday sometime, takes us 5 to 10 minutes to create the recipe for each of these parts. You're never going to write it again. You're just going to pick a single button, you're going to hit start, 2 button presses, and you can just run all of these parts. So I don't think there's any way that anyone's going to keep up with the run rate of this machine. I hope that this helps you better understand what we're offering. Thank you.